Ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to all of you. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Asia Solar Energy for Climate Change Conference, the ASECCC 2025, proudly organized by Carbon Care Lab, a non-profit organization dedicated to advancing climate justice through innovation, education, and action. So my name is Kylie. I'm honored to be your MC of the opening of this important event. So the ASECCC serves as a crucial platform to explore renewable energy solutions with a special focus on solar energy, while also championing a just and inclusive energy transition. So this year's theme, Powering Asia's Resilience with Solar, is a call to action for governments, institutions, the private sector, civil society, and all stakeholders to prioritize renewable energy and take bold, transformative action for a resilient future. We are delighted to have over 40 esteemed experts joining us virtually from across Asia. Over the next 3 days, this conference will be a hub for thought-provocative discussions, cutting-edge research, and collaborative efforts aimed at delivering impactful solutions for a climate-resilient Asia. We encourage you to actively participate, engage in fruitful discussions, and make the most of this unique opportunity to exchange knowledge and make connections with each other. There are various networking features in this platform, so please feel free to explore and enjoy. To officially begin this conference, it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Ivy Leung, Executive Director of Carbon Care Lab, to deliver her opening remarks. Ms. Leung, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kylie, and hello, everyone. Welcome to the Asia Solar Energy for Climate Change Conference 2025. I'm Ivy Leung, the Executive Director of Carbon Care Lab. It's really great to have you all joining us virtually from across Asia and beyond. For those who don't know us yet, Carbon Care Lab CCIL is a nonprofit dedicated to climate justice and just transition. We are really proud to host ASEC for the third year in a row. This year's theme, Power Asia's Resilience with Solar, focuses on how solar energy can strengthen Asian cities and communities against climate change. Our discussions will highlight practical solutions to help cities reduce emissions, adapt to climate challenges, and build a future of justice. We host a conference for clear reasons. Asia faces severe climate impacts, just like other parts in the world. Rising sea levels, heat waves, floods, and droughts that threaten millions of lives, especially in the urban and coastal areas. We saw the need for a platform to champion solar energy, which Asia has immense potential to harness. Over the past 2 years, we have built a community that drives real solutions and partnerships, and we are excited to keep pushing forward. Also, the conference was inspired by one of the core programs of CCIL, the Solar Care. We began this in 2019 by pitching philanthropy and corporates to fund us building solar PV systems for charities in Hong Kong, while benefiting from the feed-in tariff scheme, which enables participating nonprofits to have extra resources for climate education and awareness activities. Thousands of charity staff, students, and public have joined our solar tours and renewable education events in the past few years, and we are anticipating more and more partners to join us. After talking about all the good sides, let's address the elephant in the room. Solar power isn't without its critics. Some common concerns include the high upfront costs of solar installations, the environmental impact of mining materials like silicon or lithium, land use conflicts for large-scale projects, and the challenge of recycling solar panels at the end of their life. We are not here to dismiss these points. They're valid and deserve attention. Instead, our focus at ASEC is on the solutions. For example, innovations in financial model like community solar or subsidized can lower the cost. Ethical sourcing or transparent supply chains can reduce environmental harm from mining. Smart land use planning like the rooftop solar or agrivoltaics can also minimize the conflicts. All this form a high-level overview of our conference topics in the coming 3 days. On day one, we'll focus on advancing solar technology and infrastructure. We will explore how to unlock solar potential in urban areas, optimize performance in extreme weather with innovations, and manage solar storage to make the most of the surplus energy. It sets the foundation for reliable, scalable solar systems across Asia's diverse climates. Day two will center on ensuring a just and sustainable energy transition. We'll dive into building sustainable supply chains for solar, from securing critical minerals to shaping policies that support fairness. We'll also hear from youth leaders driving solar innovation and discuss how solar can address urban challenges like the water energy food nexus while promoting a circular economy for solar panel lifecycle management. On the last day, we'll focus on enhancing social and environmental resilience. Sections will cover how solar improves public health and healthcare stability, powers resilient communities for an inclusive transition, while creating green jobs to boost social strength. We'll close with a CSR chat to reflect on these ideas and chart the path forward as we approach COP30 in Brazil. These sections will dive into these challenges with practical, actionable strategies to make solar a win for both the people and the planet. I'm looking forward to inspiring discussions that deliver actionable ideas grounded in real-world examples. Again, thank you to our guest speakers for sharing your expertise and insights. Your work on the front lines of solar and climate actions make this conference really impactful. We're grateful for your contributions. Solar resilience is critical because it's not just clean, it's dependable, keeping the communities powered through storms or heat waves while cutting the emissions. Sustainability is just as important. We need reasonable and responsible practices. Recycling panels, ethical manufacturing, and ensuring the transition uplifts everyone, especially for the most vulnerable groups. When things are done right, solar can power a stronger and fairer Asia. Now I'll pass the time over to our MC again and our honorable opening keynote speaker, Professor Winston Chow.
Thank you, Ms. Long, for inspiring welcome remarks and for emphasizing the importance of this year's theme, which is powering Asia's resilience with solar. As Ms. Long just highlighted, this theme reflects the urgent need, which was addressed by, elephant in the room. Need to embrace renewable energy as a foundation for building resilience across Asia, particularly as the region faces growing climate challenges. It is a call for bold and transformative action from governments, businesses, civil society to create a sustainable and climate-ready future for all. To explore this crucial topic further, it is my great honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Winston Chow, the co-chair of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the ASECCC Working Group 2, and Professor of Urban Climate at Singapore Management University, the SMU. Professor Chow is a leading expert in urban climate change risk and adaptation strategies, including heat island mitigation. So today, he will be delivering a keynote address titled Powering Asia's Resilience, the Science Driving Action, where he will share his invaluable insights on how scientific research can shape impactful and actionable solutions for the region. You are welcome to leave your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll address them following the keynote speech. Now, without further ado, please join me welcoming Professor Winston Chow. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Kylie. Hopefully everybody can see my presentation. It's going to be a short keynote, but I hope it sets the tone for the rest of the conference over the next 3 days. I purposely touched upon important issues pertaining to environmental sustainability, energy system resilience, as well as another, I would say, elephant in the room. You've got a lot of very good technology for renewables and for battery storage, but then the question about social resilience and equity and a just transition also needs to be addressed. And I'm going to touch upon that, following up from Ivy's great opening remarks. And also thank you very much to Carbon Care InnoLab for the very kind invitation to speak at this event. Right, let me see if this works. Hopefully I can progress. Okay, I'll start first by showcasing, as you see, my presentation is very slide heavy. Very image heavy, because I want you all to think about what is conveyed by these images rather than just simple text, except for one slide. I like using this text when talking about setting the context of the climate change challenge that we're facing. It showcases where we recently were at the end of the last IPCC assessment cycle around 2020. We have 5 pathways that we can choose in terms of emission scenarios. And as we know, emissions of greenhouse gas, emissions from land cover change and from industrial activity, urbanization, electricity generation, drivers of the current climate disruption that we are seeing. We hope to try and keep the future world that we are going to see over the next 80 years, hold on, let me show a laser pointer, away from where we are currently at on the intermediate and high trajectories towards the low and very low. And if you're not motivated for the reason why, and thanks to Ivy for pointing out the importance of youth, especially youth in Asia today, people from my generation, so let's just say I'm in the middle generation, we are already experiencing a world that is more than a degree Celsius than when we were born during the Gen X or early millennial years. Those in the current Gen Alpha and beyond, they're going to see a world where we have no experience of, and their baseline is fundamentally different from what our baselines are. And one can argue that there is a moral and a sort of ethical imperative to make sure our offspring, your children, your nieces, your nephews, and your grandchildren or your grandnieces and nephews, you want them to inhabit a livable world in which the risks that we are currently facing, and I'm showcasing the image for Asia, very relevant here, are getting more frequent and are getting more intense and severe. We run the range of heat-related sort of issues, the ones that I'm very familiar and have done a lot of research of over the past 20, 25 years, that on the heat island, issues on heat waves. I'm based in Singapore right now. We're facing, we have gone through a few heat waves in the past, and we're dealing with the issues of long-term chronic sea level rise. Where most of the audience is based in, I believe in Hong Kong, you've just faced a recent severe storm with a typhoon. This is unfortunately the future that we're going to be facing. If you were in the Philippines last year, in October to November, an unprecedented 6 named tropical storms or typhoons occurred during that period. That's the new normal. That's the risks that we're facing. And it's not just risk to people or to livelihoods or to biodiversity or to agriculture. It's also germane to the topics that you'll be covering in this conference. If you're going to cite critical infrastructure, particularly on battery storage, particularly on grid advancements that can help with renewable energy, one has to make sure that these physical impact drivers won't affect the overall resilience. Yes, they are hazards. Yes, they can add on to the risk, but there must be ways and there must be research in technology and in terms of policies and in funding that can help enhance the resilience of these key infrastructure that can not only reduce emissions, but also allows for development, allows for the provision of electricity and other key services for people based in Asia. So that's something that we flagged, the increasing risk in the 6th assessment report. And as you see when I conclude, is still a key theme that we want to examine in the 7th assessment report. More pictures. We've been using this idea of the burning embers, where the key risks are qualitatively determined from quantitative literature. In general, yellows are moderate, reds are high, violets are very high risks for each warming level. Right now, we're just over a degree, coming to about 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial area. You can see along the progression from the 5th to the 6th assessment reports, some particular sectors are going to experience much more higher risk closer to the present day warming threshold because of more literature, and also the risks will differ by system. But the key takeaway is that as warming progresses, as we emit more greenhouse gases, as we convert more land from deforestation, the yellows will become reds earlier, the reds will become violets earlier for a multitude of different sectors depending on where you're at. So the local conditions, the regional conditions are critical in the sense of determining your risk. And this applies, again, as I said, not just to people or to agriculture or to biodiversity, flora, fauna, but also for your infrastructure systems related to renewable energy. So starting with that bad news, what can we do to curb climate change? I'm afraid the news is still not so good. 10 years ago, I can't believe it's been 10 years, in Paris, there was the agreement by 195 countries to try to limit warming to 2 degrees Celsius with the intention of keeping it to 1.5 degrees Celsius to reduce the risks for small island states and for coastal cities. The challenge, though, is that implemented policies in around 5 years ago, it leads to this trajectory of emissions. So this talks about the cumulative greenhouse gas emissions, carbon dioxide, methane, so on and so forth. There is a strong impetus at a multilateral and a governmental level to try and reduce the emissions with policies that are determined within countries, the nationally determined contributions. We need to have an inflection point. We need to drop the emissions along these particular trajectories. Green is to limit to 2 degrees Celsius, the upper limit of the Paris Agreement, to limit warming to 1.5. It is the blue sort of trajectory. And again, we are not aligned there just yet. We have a very limited time space over the next 5 years. Governments are aware of that, and the hope is that there will be much significant progress going on from 2020 until now, in which solar and other renewables have played a critical role in the past 2 climate conference of parties. Now, moving on to some good news. It might seem a stretch to try and cause that inflection to happen, but there are fundamental factors, drivers that can enable this change. And this is something that's really exciting in the IPCC as we look towards these enablers and where they have happened. We see examples of that happening in cities. We've seen examples of that happening in East Asia and South Asia, particularly. And the reasons for that stem on the fact that the economics are supportive of this renewable transition. And also there's a strong push towards the equity issues of how renewables can contribute to net zero emission targets. So I'll start with this was from the IPCC synthesis report from the 6th assessment cycle. We've noted that there are strong co-benefits and strong synergies between how you can improve upon reducing your emissions in a cheap basis. So solar, wind, you can see here, those in blue are actually the cost of energy, the levelized cost of electricity, in this case for solar, is cheaper than that of fossil fuels. Yellow and orange goes about is a reflection of the social cost of carbon or carbon tax. So this is about 20 to 50 US dollars, 50 to 100, and 100 and beyond for red. You can see that for 2 major renewable sources, it is already, the technology is mature enough that it's actually cheaper than coal, oil, or natural gas, even with subsidies provided from them. The evidence is very clear. And from my working group, when we look into reducing risk and enhancing resilience, the good news is that there are co-benefits. The mitigation aspects support adaptation goals of energy reliability, of resilient power systems, and improving and enhancing water use efficiency. So we talked about the conference looking into the energy-water nexus. We also look into how the benefits accrue to different sectors away from electricity and energy provision. The evidence is very strong on that front. The equity aspect, if you want to, and the literature supports this, if you really want to have sustainable net zero emission targets, if countries want that, corporates, communities have to pitch in and have to be included. They have to incorporate equity principles that can enhance the timing of country net zero goals. So the thinking is that it's no longer just a top-down country initiative that, oh, equity is there, it's lip service. No, you include communities, you include the marginalized, you include corporations, private sector individuals, practitioners into the equation, you can actually enhance the sustainability and enhance the long-term resilience of these energy solutions that can get countries to net zero. To this point, yesterday I had the privilege, this is my usual attire, by the way, I like wearing batik. I had the privilege of hosting the special representative of the UN SecGen, Antonio Guterres, Damilola Gunbiyi from Nigeria. She's the CEO of Sustainable Energy for All, Solar Energy for All, together with my chairman of Singapore Management University and ex-CEO of the DBS Bank in Singapore, and Rajiv Lal, who is a colleague at SMU and a professorial economics fellow in the business school here. We had a fantastic discussion about how to enable the green transition, particularly for renewable energies. And we touched upon the importance of energy, not just for energy's sake, but energy in the context of making sure developmental objectives for cities, for countries are also taken care of. Why? Because you want to make sure people benefit from this green transition. And how to benefit from that, you want to make sure people's developmental ideals and aspirations are kept to that. It's no point getting rid of coal, oil, and natural gas and telling people I am stopping a young kid like myself from studying at night using candlelight or something that's highly pollutive without giving them an LED light or some other sort of net zero, low carbon alternative. We have to put the developmental agenda together with the climate agenda. Otherwise, we are not going to succeed in the long run. Other suggestions from Dr. Lal and from Piyush Gupta, talking about blended finance, talking about how to leverage in the private sector, leverage in philanthropic capital with good governmental policies that are inclusive in order to make it work. So when you discuss these concepts of equity over the next few days, consider how to bring in people into the fold as opposed to excluding them. Again, some more graphs, and I know I've got a few more minutes. I want to end it in the next 2 minutes. Some more examples about the LCOE for photovoltaics, wind of both onshore and offshore, as well as for battery storage, going down in the right direction, as well as the good news of market adoption going up in the other direction. It's a nice mirror. So that's the good news, but it can be better because while the trends are good, we need to make sure the vertical axes, the numbers, increase by an order of magnitude in order to get to net zero. The final points I want to add, the trajectories for renewables should work together with other sorts of ways of getting to net zero. Different sectors will have different challenges, but as you can see, together with halting deforestation, the role that people in this community, our community for renewable energy, is rather outsized in order to drive the change needed to get to net zero based on the assessment in the last assessment, IPCC assessment. I will end by pointing out a future or forward-looking agenda. We are currently in the stage of developing drafts for a special report on climate change and cities, in which one of the chapters deal with the importance of electrifying the grid to reduce the energy demand and energy emissions from heating, cooling, and from electricity. We are in the midst of developing a draft that is open for expert review, including participants on this audience. If you are an expert, which I believe you all are, please register as an expert next month, and you can access the draft and give comments that can help this important document that informs governmental policy and can help with the net zero goals. It's not just for the special report on cities. In the working group 2 assessment that will be delivered sometime in 2028, 2029, energy systems are looked into specifically in this chapter on human settlements, infrastructure, and industry systems, as well as in working group 3, which looks into mitigation. There's a chapter on energy systems, there's a chapter on industry. Again, similar to author teams have been selected for these chapters, and we look forward to engaging with experts around the world, particularly in Asia, in terms of refining the drafts by expert review over the next couple of years or so. I will end here. Sorry, Kylie, I exceeded by 1 minute. But please, if you're interested to be involved in this expert review, I'll pause here and for about 10 seconds or 15 seconds, please print screen, please take out your devices and scan this QR code, sign up for our mailing list. We'll be able to be in touch with you and give you updates on how the work goes, and you can also help to contribute in making this assessment cycle a very strong one. Thank you very much on behalf of my fellow co-chair from the Netherlands, Bart van der Hurt. Very happy to have participated in delivering this keynote. I wish everybody a fantastic conference, and I look forward to engaging with you in the future. Thanks, Kylie, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Chow, for that insightful and thought-provocative keynote. Your expertise and your perspective on leveraging science to driving action have truly set the tone for the critical discussions we'll be having throughout this conference for the couple of days later. We've already received some great questions from the audience in the Q&A box, so let's dive right in. I know that we have a time limit, so for the limit, I will address one of the questions to you. So we have one question from Angus. He basically asked, what are the key areas where civil society can provide input and expertise to the AR7 and special report, particularly on the context of Asian cities and solar energy?
Thanks. Kylie, I can actually answer both questions from Angus at the same time, if that's possible. What types of research would be useful for the report itself? We are looking for case studies. We are looking for examples. For instance, in the cities report, we've heard feedback from governments that they are looking for what works in different contexts, for a different kind of city, for a different kind of demographic profile. If there are solutions ranging from a good application of energy storage from batteries in this particular area that reduces emissions and improves developmental trajectories for communities who are there, that will be useful material. Also, what I can suggest is you can register as an expert, Angus. Take a look at the chapters. You can see if your knowledge fits into the sort of chapter themes. You can leave your feedback, send it to us. The fun thing about the IPCC, actually not so fun thing about being an author, is that we have to reply to each and every review comment from any reviewer that sent in. So in the last cycle, my chapter had close to 1,800 comments over 2 drafts. We had to answer each and every one, and it helped tremendously because a lot of these contributions, particularly from countries that are in the global south, countries that are developing or economies in transition, they really help to make the report a better one. Can I proceed with the second, answering the second question? Kylie, I can see that.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Key areas where civil society can provide input. I've mentioned it, and I think Ivy has mentioned it as well, along the aspects of a just transition. Looking as an example in the cities report, chapter 4 was scoped because we looked at the enablers, finance, governance, inclusivity, indigenous knowledge, local knowledge that are oftentimes omitted and makes the path towards a resilient future much more difficult. Including this enablers, seeing where they've worked would be fantastic material to make sure that those, as I said, the net zero goals that we can have, we can try and reach them as quickly as possible.
Great. Thank you, Professor Chow, and thank you everyone for your thoughtful question. And once again, our session has come to an end, and a big thank you to Professor Chow for his enlightening keynote. Thank you for Ivy for the welcoming remarks as well, and for addressing the audience queries so thoroughly. This concludes our opening session. So we hope it has set the tone for an exciting and meaningful discussions we have planned over the next 3 days. So the next session, it will be building resilient energy systems in Asian cities. Unlocking solar potential will begin shortly in a separate virtual room. So thank you once again, and we look forward to seeing you there.